Good morning. This week's Parsha Miketz has the incredible turnaround, the transformative events that take Yosef from the depth of despair, not despair, but a despairing condition, where he was not just a slave, but an imprisoned slave, in a jail with no hope of ever living a normal life, to suddenly become not just a free man, but to become basically the freest man in the world, to become the viceroy in Egypt, a man with whom even King Paro was afraid of. And although Yosef respected the office of Paro, Paro realized that Yosef's power was not just intellectual and sophistication, but that he had an incredible spiritual power, from which Paro was not only impressed, but also fearful of. And so therefore, in terms of freedom, the freest person usually is the king. In this case, the freest person was the king's appointee, Yosef, and basically had the power to do whatever he wanted. And Yosef knew that based upon his father's love, that his father was suffering, and was suffering incredibly. And it seems inconceivable that a man of Yosef's sensitivity and insight would not understand just how deep the pain would be for Yaakov. So why, as viceroy of Egypt, did he not send a message to his father, "Father, I'm alive"? The answer that most teachers give their students is based upon a midrash Chazal, that deals with Isaac, with Yitzchak. Yitzchak was still alive for several years when Yosef was sold. Yaakov was 108 at the time that Yosef was sold, and Yitzchak was 168. That means he had 12 more years to live. And during that time, of course, Yitzchak was a prophet. So Yitzchak must have known that Yosef was alive. So why didn't he tell Yaakov, "Your son is alive, don't mourn"? And the answer that's given is that the 9 brothers who were there needed a quorum, they needed a minion, to make a heavy oath for everyone that no one was to reveal what happened to Yosef. And since there were only 9 of them, because Reuven had gone away in his sackcloth and his fasting over what had transpired with his father and his father's concubine, Bilhah, so that they needed someone to combine, so they combined HaKadosh Baruch Hu in their minion. Now, how a human being can combine God and a minion, that's not for me to say. That is a position that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi takes, that there can be a minion of 9 with a Sefer Torah, or a minion of 9 counting HaKadosh Baruch Hu, counting God. But the the most important thing is that they included God in their oath, that they cursed anyone who would reveal that Yosef had been sold and that he was still alive. In that case, Yosef was also, if God agreed to this oath, this ban, then Yosef was also included. The question is, why would the victim be included in a ban that was meant to prevent knowledge about the victim? And it's a very difficult sell. It's a very difficult, because it's in Pashtus Aksuvim, in the simple context of the psukim, of the verses, there is no evidence of the ban. And even if you say you have to say it regarding Yitzchak, it is very difficult to say that this automatically obligated. How can people who violate the rights of someone then further violate his rights by not allowing him to reveal where he is, reveal his location, so that he can defend himself or save himself? It seems counterintuitive. So, when I was younger, for many years, I believed that it wasn't that Yosef was obligated to remain silent, but rather, because even if he was forced to make such an oath to the brothers, and it's not found in the verses at all, it would be an oath that was done under duress. And I'm sure that he could have found a bezdin or created a bezdin, a court, to relieve him of that vow. At any rate, when I was younger, I believed that it wasn't that Yosef was forbidden to contact his father. Yosef did not want to contact his father. And that's because I believed that Yosef was bitter at his father's decision-making. Now, one could argue a person makes a mistake and so on and so forth. But Yaakov was a Baal Ruach HaKodesh. Yaakov didn't have to claim it. Yaakov had visitations by God Almighty himself. Yaakov saw angels, fought with angels, fought with the angel of Yosef. How could a man of the stature of Yaakov make such a horrible error to send Yosef to his brothers alone, without any defense? At least he should have given him a sword. At least he could have given him a stick. Or at least he could have put an angel for him to fend off the brothers' attack. As it says, he sent angels to Esav, and they were beating Esav and his men up. Well, why didn't he do that with Yosef? Yosef was upset that his father's irrational mission caused him such grief, and did not want to have anything to do with his family, neither with his brothers or with his father, because it was his father who caused his pain. I know that for most people this is a hard reach, but there seems to be no simple reason why he wouldn't contact his father. And in fact, he names his son Menashe, for God has given me a son to forget my entire father's home, my father's household. This doesn't appear to be somebody who wants to come back to his father. He wants to forget about it. And now he has a son. God has allowed him to forget. That's how I saw it for many years. This year, I decided that perhaps there is another insight. Again, Yosef chose not to send messages to his father. Yosef was not angry with his father because that would make Yosef upset at somebody else for his own victimhood. This is victimitis. This is the scourge of Western thinking, of postmodern woke thinking, that every reason why somebody is in a difficult position is because somebody else put him there. It's not true. Most of the time, 99% of the time, the reason why we suffer is because of our own bad decisions and our own lack of initiative and our own lack of doing things. Blaming his father for his misfortune is victimitis. Maybe he caused it. Maybe he was arrogant. Maybe his words weren't chosen well. Maybe he could have been more humble before his brothers. They hated him for a reason. They didn't hate him because they're bad people. These are the children of Jacob. And even if the mother is Leah and she's jealous of Yosef's mother, Leah was a tzaddikus. Leah was a holy woman. She cried for years, prayed for years that she should not wind up the wife of Esau. A woman like that was a woman of great character. And her children were men of great character. Yosef should have been more humble. Or, alternatively, everything is by divine providence. God wants you to suffer right now. For what reason? I don't know. But it isn't somebody else's fault. And it may not be your fault. It may be God's choice. And that's what Yosef accepted. Yosef accepted that everything that takes place in this world is by divine providence. And had he been killed? Or what happened in terms of that he was sold as a slave and then put into the jail of the one who owned him, his master. According to Chazal, he was there for 13 years. I don't think so. 10 years. I don't think so. I think he was there only for a total of 3 years, 3.5 years. But nonetheless, his stay in the jail, he accepted. It says that the name of God was always on his lips. Everything was by the will of God. And that because of that, he found favor in the eyes of the jailer. He never was a person to complain. He wasn't bitter. He didn't say it was somebody else's fault that he's there. The jailer liked his attitude. The attitude of a person who takes responsibility for his circumstances. Does the best that he can, wherever he is. So what was the reason why Yosef decided not to send a message to his father? Now think about it. What happens if there is a postcard with a pyramid, and a man on a camel, smoking some hashish or whatever, having a good time. And underneath it says, "Wish you were here. Yours truly, Yosef." And Yaakov gets this postcard, and it's authenticated. This is his son's signature. And don't tell me they didn't know how to write. They didn't know how to write in those days. They had cuneiform, they had papyri, there was writing. They could write in certain ways. And even if they couldn't, he could have sent somebody as a messenger. Tell him. Yosef says hi. What would have happened? Well, the first thing he would call his brothers. He says, you guys said you found this coat of many colors with blood on it? And it must have been Yosef who was eaten up by some kind of an animal. Yosef just sent me a postcard. He's doing well. He's in Egypt. In fact, he's the viceroy of Egypt. Now, what's going on? Either he was killed by someone, by an animal, or something else happened. Or this is a lie. Well, this is his signature. How is that possible? And somebody would have admitted to Yaakov that they did it. What do you think Yaakov's reaction would have been? As great as any man could possibly be, as great as it's important to contain your anger, I cannot believe that Yaakov would not have reacted angrily and dismissively of his other 10 sons. He would have disinherited them immediately. And Yosef understood this. So now, let's understand what's going on. Yosef is either, during the time that he's with Potiphar or in the jail, he's suffering. When he becomes viceroy, don't you think he's also suffering? He's suffering loneliness. He doesn't relate to the Egyptians. The people that he feels closest to, far away, and he can't leave. He's become the viceroy. Yosef is suffering. So he's suffering. What will be the result of his letter to Yaakov? It'll create even greater suffering. Do you really think that Yaakov would enjoy disenfranchising 10 of his children and his grandchildren and their wives and their descendants eternally? Do you really think that Yaakov, who is a sensitive soul, would have found pleasure from this? So what would have been the result? The result would have been a horrific holocaust of emotions, of destroyed and shattered lives. And Yosef decided better to leave things as they are. Better that Dad should stew in his mourning than upset him even more and get him to disenfranchise my brothers and make their lives miserable. Why should I cause more misery? What happened to me is by divine providence. I have to do the best that I can under the circumstances. But to lash out, to take revenge, to cause further damage, that's wrong. So Yosef decided that it's best he not reveal himself to his father, despite the fact that his father was still in great mourning. But at least the rest of the family, at least there was some semblance of normal life. He would have destroyed their lives had he sent the letter. After the brothers come, and after he confronts them, and after Shimon was put into jail, and Yaakov has this trepidation about the viceroy of Egypt, with all of those things, then to reveal that he's alive, that would bring an incredible pleasure to Yaakov. And Yaakov, the the news would be so overwhelmingly good, that he wouldn't focus on what happened and who's to blame. Maybe he was saved by an angel. Maybe the animal got tired. Maybe he hit the animal and ran off, just like with King David later. Who knows what he would have said? But clearly, Yosef did not have the right to destroy other people's lives. And that's a tremendous lesson. And you're saying right now, Klal Yisrael was hurt by Hamas. And now you're hurting others. You shouldn't be doing that. Totally different situation. When someone attacks you and is going to attack you again and again and again until he can destroy you, that person is an enemy that has to be removed. Hamas, when it came and killed so many civilians, did so in a very well thought out and well planned attack, indicated that it wasn't just blowing smoke that it wanted the destruction of Israel. It actually had plans to do so, and would do so again and do so again and do so again. This is what the head of Hamas has said. We'll do it again and again till this is just an encore. When you're dealing with an enemy that wishes to destroy you, totally different thing. There, your enemy you must destroy. In fact, Israel is bending over backwards not to have criticism from the rest of the world and allowing its soldiers to die, rather than do the militarily superior thing of blasting those cities to smithereens, just like the Allies did in Dresden and Berlin before they came in. They blasted those cities to pieces. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Germans were killed in those attacks. That softened Germany up for the invasion. And that's what military people would do. They destroy the cities, flatten them. And then you come in. Then you don't have many casualties. Israel, well, it's only 100 soldiers. The only reason why there are 100 casualties is because Hamas has places where they can hide. Underneath mosques, underneath apartment buildings, in schools, in hospitals. At any rate, no, we're talking about if somebody harms me, should I take revenge? The answer is you're not allowed to take revenge. And sometimes the vengeance, you may get some pleasure out of the vengeance. The vengeance is a lot worse than what was suffered. So this is the reason why I think Yosef didn't send a message to his father. Hi, Dad, wish you were here.